Well, hello. A little follow-up here on the old Gyrkin. Today, this morning, the day after what you've seen on the previous video, I took him up, put the kite up about, I would say close to 700 feet, and he went up to the lure, grabbed it, came down a little bit. It appeared to me, it's hard for me to see up that high, to be honest with you, nowadays, but anyway, but then stopped. So I went running the line down, and when I got closer to where I could see him better, I could see that it had released fine, but the wind was blowing pretty good. And it was clear that his weight was causing the line to bend and precluding it enough to preclude it from coming down. So that's what the story is with that. So I'm not going to go, I'm not going to do this anymore until I get this figured out. But anyway, that's the story. And so I couldn't quite understand this initially because I had so much, not so much, but I had a lot of luck with the release that I had for years that I told you about, and didn't have any problems like this. I can't imagine what's going on. I've tried 2 different releases now, since I lost that one. And the same problem. And then it dawned on me, the birds that I have flown previously have all been tiercels and smaller birds that, except I had a female prairie, but that's a small bird as well. And I really think the weight makes a difference. I think that's the more weight that's up there, the more it causes the line to bend and not want to come down. And that was the same thing with the Gyrkin I told you about too. I mean, he wasn't a large bird, but he wasn't a small one either. I forget how much he weighed exactly. I want to say around 30 ounces. So I think that's why I haven't had problems in the past. It's just the birds that I've flown have been lighter, and I think that when they're lighter, it makes a difference. So I got to work this out. Now that's that. Now I wanted to tell you about how I went about. As you recall, I had a hell of a time getting the bird to go up to take the lure off of the kite string. And I would have bet, I absolutely would have bet a paycheck that the first time I put that, based on previous experiences, the first time I put that, and the fact that I had him so wedded to that lure, that the first time I put that lure up on the kite string, that he would have went up there and snagged it. But I was wrong. I was dead wrong. And you saw my efforts trying to get him to take it, and he didn't want to play. So I was given some advice that I heeded, and that was to start off with the lure on the absolute ground. And so that's what I did. I put the lure on the ground, attached to the kite, and even then, as I mentioned previously, he's always had no problems taking the lure on the ground. But even with that lure on the ground attached to that kite, he was reluctant. I had to get him up pretty close before he would decide to jump down on it. And that was the first day. And then the second day I raised it up to where it was about an inch off the ground, that's all. And same thing, he wasn't real keen about that, but again, got him close and he grabbed it. And then the third day I brought it up to 5, no more than 6 feet. And he was a little more willing, but still I'm fairly close to it. And then on the 4th day, I took it up to 10 feet. And then he grabbed it. I know that some of you said, and it was at that point that I felt that it would be an opportunity for me to get out of that field and get out to that one that I told you I'd found, because I didn't want to take it up any higher in case he, you know, decided he didn't want it and flew off and landed somewhere, which of course I didn't want. But it was clear to me, well, first of all, as I was taking the bird up a little bit higher to that 10-foot mark, I was also taking weight out of him. By the time we got there, he was a good couple of ounces down and lower than what he had been previously. And it was clear to me that at that point, at that 10-foot mark, that I could have been in downtown Los Angeles and he would have gone for that lure. So I didn't bother to go to drive the extra miles and whatnot to get to that field that I told you I found. And I stayed there, and it worked out. Worked out fine. And speaking of that, I hate to bring this up, but I'm going to, for the sake of, I guess, the newer falconers. And that is, you know, when I started this, I was strongly criticized by one gentleman for training the bird out of the lure, training it out of the back of the van. I mean, he evidently felt that that was a crime before God. And even though I had done it before, you know, I mean, it isn't as if that was the first time I trained a falcon out of the back of a car or a van or anything like that. And then I was told that I shouldn't lure train it, you know, get it to fly to the lure. That I should just forego all that. It's unnecessary. Don't do it. Counterproductive. Get the bird up on the kite. And of course, I didn't do that. I did get the bird to finally, you know, that it would fly to the lure. And then I was told that, you know, I should get the hell out of Dodge. In other words, get out of that field. It's not good, you know, to train these birds in that sort of a field. Of course, I didn't do that either. I hung in there. And it worked out. It worked out. And you know, I want to point this out because while I understand perfectly why people find it necessary to criticize others in order to put themselves up on a pedestal, you know, I understand that. It's really hard for me to accept. It really is. Because when you think about it, as I've said before, you know, our really only concern is the health and welfare of the bird. And beyond that, it's really, you know, up to us how we train these birds. And I just can't imagine people getting so wrapped around the axle about how someone goes about doing it. It just doesn't make sense to me. Well, it does, because I understand why, like I say, but it's hard for me to accept. And so, I thought I would comment on that, because if you're a newer falconer out there, you're going to run into these folks from time to time, and just understand that it's not about you at all. It's about them. So, and let it go at that. And that brings me to another point. If you are contemplating doing something like this, that is a video where you're going to let it all hang out there, so to speak, not going to edit it, just let it all hang out. Unless you're a crusty old retired Marine like myself, or you have a good solid knowledge of the topic that you're going to share with everyone via video, I wouldn't do it. I would not do it. It's just not worth it. It really isn't. You know, I hate to say that. I really do, because, you know, in this day and age, with all the technology that's out there now, you know, we could share a lot of things via video. But you know, there's always these people out there lurking and wanting to, you know, make your life miserable because you don't do things the way they feel they should be done. So, my advice, much as I hate to say it, would be let it go. Let it go. It isn't worth it. In fact, this is the last one for me. I've done 3 of them on the Coopers, and this one here, and that's it. I've had it myself. That's it for me. All right, now, I don't want to end on a negative note, so let me just say I sincerely, and I mean that sincerely, appreciate those of you who, well, first of all, those of you who may have thought themselves that this is the wrong way to go about doing things, who didn't say anything. I mean, that's great, because nothing constructive comes out of that sort of stuff. So thank you. And of course, I want to thank those of you that did, in fact, contribute some constructive comments to help me along. I appreciate that very much. I truly do. And if I didn't do what you had suggested, please don't take it personal. It was nothing personal at all. It's just that I think in the final analysis, we all, you know, we have to decide ourselves how we're going to go about training these birds. And that's all it's about. It was about nothing else. Nothing else. And again, I really do appreciate you taking the time to help me out. Thanks. Okay, now what's in store for the Gyrkin? Well, once I can figure out how to get him down off of that kite without having to run the line out, and there's a gentleman who's going to send me a drawing, so I'm of a release that's going to allow that to happen, so I'm looking forward to that. Once that's worked out, then I'll take him up to the end of my line, which is 1,000 feet, and then I'll send him up, send the kite without the lure, and as you all know, I'm sure he'll go up to the kite looking for the lure, and then I'll serve him a pheasant, maybe a couple, depending on how things go with him. And then we'll go out and try to find some ducks, and hopefully have some fun with that. I haven't seen any yet. They're just not down here, I guess, but they will be. Hopefully by the time we get done, I get done with the kite, and we can just graduate right into the ducks. And so that's my that's what's in store for the rascal. That's, I guess, all I can say. So I appreciate those of you that watch these, and take care and good hawk.